You are listening to the Makers Church podcast. For more information about our community, please visit makerschurch.org.
Happy New Year. If we have never met, my name's Derek, and I have the absolute privilege of serving here as the lead pastor. And if you're new with us, we're so grateful that you have come and joined us at Makers Church today. It's the beginning of a new year, and I can't imagine a better way to spend the first Sunday of the year than together. And, not only is it a new year, you've been hearing this and seeing this go around, it's not just the beginning of a new year, but the beginning of a new decade, which is crazy because I can hardly make sense of everything that happened in the last year. And I don't know about you, but when you look back over your life over the last year, it seems like it can just go by so fast. It can go by so quick. And the same is true of a decade. I mean, it's insane to me to think about the fact that Makers Church, the church that was merged together over the last year, another thing I can't even make sense of with North Park Baptist Church, but Makers Church, we've been a church for a decade now, which is crazy. And even beyond crazy than that is that North Park Baptist Church that we merged with has been a church for almost 100 years. And it's just time, it seems like, can just escape us. And I think because of that, that's why around this time of the year, we set resolutions and we think about our intentions for the year. We think about our goals for the year. But usually by about right now, our resolutions have been resolved. Right? And I'm not going to lie. I've had a few that have already escaped me. And I'm the kind of guy where I do stuff like a year on, a year off. Like go to the gym. So like in 2018, I did a triathlon. And Jason helped me like put a plan together. And I did my first ever and last ever triathlon. And so I went hard for a year. And then I just took 2019 off. Just spin it out of the gym. But I'm back in the gym. And I started a day early on New Year's Eve because I was actually at work. And I couldn't slide down the fire pole last night because I'm so sore. I had to take the stairs at work. And so I hope that keeps going. But I think one of the reasons why our resolutions resolve so quickly is because we kind of pull them out of thin air, or we make them just these individual standalone things rather than being part of a bigger vision for our life. And I think one of the reasons that many of us, we have these isolated resolutions that never make their way far into the new year is because they're not only not part of a vision, but many of us lack a mission for our life. And a vision has to be a derivative. It has to be birthed out of a mission for your life. And I think the resolutions or the goals or the intentions that we set for our lives that are in alignment or that they come out of a vision and out of a bigger mission, those are the ones that sustain. Those are the ones that we can stay in. And so for us, as we've been thinking together as a church, what would 2020 look like for us? We've answered the question, what does it look like to have 2020 vision? Now, I know it's cheesy, but I was thinking a lot about vision. And vision is like it's a word that is really scary because what is vision? If you've ever led a company or led an organization or even just led your own family, vision, it's the scary thing because it's very elusive, it's ethereal. But as I was thinking about it, vision is just simply what we can see. Vision is what we can see. Vision has everything to do with what we can see, but not only about what we can see, but it has to do with the way we see it. And I love that our faith can become the filter for what we see. And the mission that we set for our lives can become the filter for the way we see it. And so together as a church, the staff and the pastors, our board, we've been thinking a lot about what would it look like for us to have a vision that was not only an organizational vision, but a vision that could actually make its way down into your life. And the thing that I love the most about our vision is it has a place for you in it. And that's my hope this morning as I unpack our vision for not only 2020, but for the next decade. And even beyond that, the next century. What would it look like for us to have a vision that would impact us individually. And here's why it matters that it does. And my goal, my hope this morning, as I unpack this vision, is that it would become the vision of your life. Because if it doesn't, then the vision of the church will never come to fruition. Because we are the church. The church is not this building, or it's not an organization. It doesn't have a name on it. The church is the church, and we are the church, a body of believers. And our vision as a church will only come into fruition if it becomes the vision and mission of your life. And so my hope this morning is to convince you, to compel you, to persuade you to make this vision part of the vision of your life. Now, the unique thing about God is that He created you uniquely. And so this is going to look different for you. It's going to be shaped differently by your passions and your talent, by your calling, by your vocation, by the proximity that you have in your life, by the way that you spend your time and energy and money. But my hope is that collectively it hurls us forward into creating God's kingdom here on earth. And so our theme for the year, the theme that we've chosen to help guide the decisions we make, the way we spend our time, it says it like this, that we're here for good. Here for good. Would you say that with me? Here for good. See, this is the theme that is giving shape and form to everything that we're going to do together as a church. And here for good, it's got a double meaning. As I was thinking about just what happened last year, it's crazy to me. I remember this Sunday last year, I sat right there, right where you are, Becky. And we didn't, if you were part of Maker's Church, you might remember we didn't have church on this Sunday last year because we didn't have a building to meet in. We had lost our building, and we didn't know where we were going. But we had a vision. We knew that God was calling us back to our home turf, back to North Park, where it all began. We didn't know where. We didn't know how. We didn't know if. We didn't know when. We just knew that God was calling us back to here. And we sat here, just our leadership team, and we sat here and we participated in North Park Baptist Church's gathering. We had met Pastor Glenn because James Clare had introduced us, a random guy from Cincinnati that I'd never met in my life. And we sat here thinking, what would 2019 hold for us? And we couldn't see it clearly, but because of our faith, we knew that God was moving us back into this neighborhood, and we didn't know how. And what would transpire for about the next few months after that is the following Sunday, we had our first corporate gathering together, Maker's Church and North Park Baptist, and we entered into that season that we called dating, where we were going to figure out whether or not this is where we would be here for good. And as you look back over the year, you see how it all transpired, and God brought our two communities together and merged us together in a marriage that was impossible without the providence of God. And here we are together, fully blended, fully family. And so our here for good meaning means that question is answered for us. We're here for good. We're here. Like, there's a permanence to where we're at as a church and to where we're going to be sent from. And it's awesome to have that kind of clarity. So the here for good means we're here. Hallelujah, church. If you've been with us migrating all over the city for 10 years and following a vision that was short term, like we're going to be in this space till next Sunday. Follow us on Instagram and find out when and where we're going to meet. And this is the next best place for us. It might only last a few weeks, but we're here, and it's great. And we would be here for a while, but now we're here for good. And it's amazing. It's a miracle. But it's bigger than that. It's not just about locality. It's not just about physicality. It's that we're here to do good. We know what we are about. We know what we want to do and what we want to accomplish. And I'm going to spend a bunch of time next Sunday talking about what it means to be for good. Because I believe each and every one of these three words, they stand alone on themselves, and they're meaningful and they're impactful. And next Sunday, we're going to break down what it means to us to be for good. But today, I just want to talk about what it means for us to be here. I think here is perhaps one of the deepest paradigm shifts I've ever entered into when it comes to thinking about vision. Because when you think about vision, you think about then and there. You think about where we want to be or what the possibilities are or what could be. And I know that if you're like me, it's overwhelming to think about what could be, what the possibilities are. In fact, we live in an age where there are so many options that we get decision fatigue. Mark and I, we have a weekly date. And when we go out on our little breakfast date, we order the same food over and over. We can order for each other. And it's not because we love each other very well or because we know each other that well. It's just because we simply don't want to choose something off of the menu. Because we live in an age where there's so many options, so many opportunities. There's nothing holding you here. There's nothing holding you down. You could do anything, and you could be anybody, and you could go anywhere, and the world is small, and you could travel for cheap, and you could be there and here and everywhere. And so the future can be a source of anxiety for us because of all of the possibilities. And I was thinking about what it would mean for us to have a vision for the future. What dawned on me is that it has everything to do with being here. And so the first thing that I want you to know is that this is not just a standalone idea. This is birthed out of our mission as a church, which says that our mission is to make on earth as it is in heaven. And I know that it sounds maybe cool, but it's really confusing. It's ethereal. It doesn't feel like you can grab a hold of it. Like, what does it mean to make on earth as it is in heaven? Because when we think about heaven, we think about then and there. We think about the thing to come, the age to come, the place we might go when we die. But it's actually the opposite of that. When we declare this, that we are here to make on earth as it is in heaven, it's the opposite of ethereal. It's actually physical. It's tangible. It has everything to do with here. And I want to watch a film together that's going to help me unpack this in a better way than I can. And I'm going to be back up in a moment after we see this film together.
So in the Bible, the ideas of heaven and earth are ways of talking about God's space and our space.
So I understand our space really well. We live here. There's trees, rivers, mountains. But my understanding of God's space gets a little fuzzy.
And what we do get in the Bible are images trying to help us grasp God's space, which is basically inconceivable to us.
So these are two very different types of spaces.
Yes, they're different in their nature, but here's what's really interesting is that in the Bible, these are not always separate spaces. So think of heaven and earth as like different dimensions that can overlap in the same exact space.
So we talk a lot about going to heaven after we die, but this idea of heaven and earth overlapping, we don't talk a lot about that.
Which is kind of crazy because the union of heaven and earth is what the story of the Bible is all about. How they were once fully united and then driven apart, and about how God is bringing them back together once again.
So let's go back to the beginning, where heaven and earth, they're completely overlapping.
Yeah, this is what the Bible's description of the Garden of Eden is all about. It's a place where God and humanity dwelt together, perfectly no separation, and humans then partner with God in building a flourishing, beautiful world and so on.
But as humans, we wanted to do things a different way. We wanted God out, and we wanted to create a world apart from him.
Yeah, so we have these two spaces now. And the Bible actually uses lots of different kinds of words and phrases to refer to these two spaces to make a clear distinction.
So you've said that these spaces can overlap, though. So explain how that works.
Yeah, this is where we have to start talking about temples. Because in the biblical world, you experience God's presence by going to a temple. That's where heaven and earth overlap.
Now, there are two types of temples described in the Bible. One is a tabernacle, basically a tent that was built by Moses. And the other was this massive building made by Solomon.
And these temples were decorated with fruit trees and flowers and images of angels and all kinds of gold and jewels and so on. And these are designed to make you feel like you're going back to the garden. And at the center of the temple was a place called the Holy of Holies, which was like the hot spot of God's presence.
Now we can go and be with God again.
But not so fast, because the temple also creates a problem. So God's space is full of his presence and goodness and justice and beauty, but human space is full of sin and injustice and the ugliness that results.
So how do these spaces overlap if they're so different and they're in conflict with each other?
This was resolved through animal sacrifice.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. What do animal sacrifices have to do with this?
Yeah, the idea is this. Animal sacrifices, somehow they absorb the sin when the animal dies in your place. And it creates a clean space, so to speak, where you are now free to enter into the temple and be in God's presence.
Okay, so if I'm an Israelite and I live in Jerusalem, I might be able to be in God's presence. But you said the story of the Bible is all of heaven and earth reuniting.
Right. So we have to keep going in the story where we come to Jesus in the New Testament. And in the Gospel of John, we hear this claim that God became human in Jesus and made his dwelling among us. Now, this word dwelling is really curious. It means he set up a tabernacle among us. And so what John is claiming right here is that Jesus is a temple. He is now the place where heaven and earth overlap.
What's interesting about Jesus is that he isn't staying in this safe, clean space. He's running around hanging out with sinners. He's healing people of their sicknesses and forgiving people of their sins.
He's basically creating little pockets of heaven where people can be in God's presence, but he's doing it out there in the middle of the world of sin and death.
And he keeps telling everyone that the kingdom of heaven is at hand.
And he even told his followers to pray regularly that God's kingdom come and that his will be done here on earth just as it is in heaven.
But a lot of people are threatened by Jesus and they kill him, which seems to spoil this whole plan to reunite heaven and earth.
But we have to go back to a scene earlier on in Jesus' story where John the Baptist saw Jesus and said, "Behold, this is the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world."
So Jesus isn't just talked about as being a temple, he's also talked about as being the temple sacrifice.
Yeah, so the cross is now the place where Jesus absorbs sin to create a clean space that is not limited like animal sacrifices. Jesus' sacrifice has the power to keep spreading and reuniting more and more of heaven and earth.
And this is all really great, but it leaves one big question in my mind, which is, what happens when I die? Don't I just fly over to God's space to be with Jesus?
Yeah, so a few times in the New Testament, we learn that Christians will be with Jesus in heaven after they die, but that is not the focus of the Bible story. The focus is on how heaven and earth are being reunited through Jesus and will be completely brought together one day when he returns. So in the book of Revelation, we get this beautiful image of the Garden of Eden, now in the form of a city, coming to end the age of sin and death by redeeming all of human history in a renewed creation. And God's space and human space completely overlap once again.
Is that not the coolest little video? I want to take some decision fatigue out of you right now. And if your goal this year is to read the scriptures more, then I would love to invite you to join me on a reading plan that the Bible Project put together. It's in the YouVersion app. You can just search for the Bible Project, and it's an amazing Bible in a year. And there's videos like devotionals like this all along the way. They unpack entire books of the Bible, how they all blend together. It's amazing. And I think this is one of the most innovative things happening in the church right now. Is these two creative guys out of Portland who are putting the scriptures together in film format like this to help us make sense of the big story of God. But I think what the reason I showed you that video is that helps basically digest tons and tons and tons of theology books that I've read, N.T. Wright and many other people who have helped shape this view of what here means and why here matters. And that's what we mean when we say to make on earth as it is in heaven. In fact, we believe this mission so much that we also carry it in our name, Makers Church. We believe deeply that God is the maker of all things, that he made us in his image and likeness, and therefore our vocation, our invitation, our project that God has sent us on is to make with our lives. And we want to make all kinds of things in our future. Most importantly, we want to make disciples who make disciples. Beyond that, we believe that when we make disciples who make disciples, we will make peace, that we will make things better, that we will make a difference, that we will make beautiful things out of that which is broken. This is the project that God has invited us into, to be his participants in the ongoing creation and bringing together of heaven and earth. And we believe deeply that there are things that we can do in this life, in the here, that will last into eternity. Any glimpse of the kingdom that we make here will last into the new creation. It won't need to be wiped away because it will already be renewed. And I think it's so beautiful what we've been invited to in this physicality, in this location. Here at Makers Church, we sit on the crossroads of a diverse type of people. Socioeconomically diverse, spiritually diverse ethnically and culturally diverse in all sorts of ways. And what God has called us to do is to reconcile those things, to bring those things together. And that's what we were setting out to do here as a church, to make on earth as it is in heaven. I also love the idea that this area, as we know, it's being redeveloped. And there's so much change that's happening in this neighborhood, but beyond redevelopment, we know that there's hope of reconciliation. That we know that beyond redevelopment, we know that there's a hope of renewal. That better than redevelopment, there's the possibility of resurrection. That we as the church can be a part of the resurrecting power of Jesus being made manifest in people's lives. I can't imagine a better mission to give our life to. And so for us, the first thing that here means for us is it means here on earth. That it brings us into the now. That we're not so concerned or worried about the age to come because what we do now has an impact on that. And what you make with your life can last into eternity. What are the things that we can do here that will echo into eternity? What would that mean for your life, for a shift, for a vision to become clear to you that you can do now that would last forever? Those are the things worthy of spending our time and our energy and our money on. But beyond that, here also means the present. Here doesn't just mean earth, it doesn't mean location, it doesn't mean this corner. Here also means now. Here means the present. And it's interesting to think about the future if all we can do is stay concerned about the present. But I want to read you the words of Jesus in Matthew 6:25. These will challenge every piece of our planning and future strategies. Matthew 6:25, it says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, for what you will eat or drink, or about your body." That's why I took 2019 off. I'm like, I'm not worried about it. "What you will wear," clearly Target's fine. "Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds in the air. Do they not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them? And are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of his own." You know what's troubling? That passage for a guy like me. For a guy like me who loves to think about the future and dream about the future, even a church of ours who always talks about creating the future and making a difference and making the world a better place, all of the stuff that we want to do and achieve, this passage challenges a guy like me. I don't know about you. As a leader, I feel like my main job is to have vision for the future. And what should we do tomorrow and the next day and the year to come? A 30, 60, 90-day plan, a 5, 10, 15-year vision. Yet the God of the universe is calling us into the here, into the now. Why? I think there's so many reasons why, but perhaps one of the biggest reasons is the future is where all of our anxiety and worry comes from. When we think about how could that be, how could that happen, and God says, just don't worry about it. And the past is where most of our regret comes from. But the here is the only place that will have any bearing on what happens in the future. My wife is very different than me. And most of us are different. We're wired differently. Some of you are wired to just dwell in the past, and you love the past. My wife loves the past. She loves scrapbooking and capturing memories. She loves Time Hop, which I think Facebook owns now, like they own everything in the world. But every day, it's like, let's reminisce. Let's look back. And she's even instilled this in our kids. My kids found old, like, real photos in a drawer of me, and they just laugh. They pull them out and laugh at me. I had long hair and acne. It was awesome. And my son even took a picture of me to school to have his friends laugh at me from when I was a kid. And so she's like instilled this reminiscing spirit in our kids to love the past. And many of you love the past. Many of you love Christmas season because you pull the ornaments out of the box and you remember everything that's happened in the past. And you love to reminisce and you love tradition and you love everything that December is all about. And January is terrifying because it's all about the future. And the past inherently isn't bad. The past is perhaps one of the greatest ways that we can move to a place of gratitude in our life. As we reflect on the past, as we think about all that God has done, as we think about all that's happened in our lives and through us. And the past can serve us well as we remember that. But the greatest danger about the past is if you stay there. If you dwell in the past, you will miss the now. If you dwell in the past, you will miss the very opportunity that you have to create more memories to reminisce about. Isn't that interesting? You can love the past and you can dwell on the past, but if you miss the now, you will not have anything to look back on and remember. And the future is just as dangerous. The future is one of those things, once again, that can be riddled with anxiety and keep us worried about what's to come and how is this going to happen. And the future is a place that we can also move to, and this is what I'm guilty of, as we talked about in the Enneagram series. I'm a 7, so I just love to move, think, activate. I love to be out there because out there is way better than here most of the time. And the crazy truth about this is there will be no future if we do nothing with the here. The decisions that we make now are the very thing that shape the future. The decisions that we make now. Don't say, I want to do this in 2020. It's already 2020. What are you doing? Because I thought about this. I was going to tell my wife, babe, I'm going to get back in the gym. I'm going to work out again. And then I thought, she'll just make fun of me and tell me, yeah, right. So instead of telling her, babe, in 2020, I'm going to work out, I just started working out. And she knows that I'm working out because she can't touch me. Because I'm so sore. And I'm like, see? That's what happens. See, the past doesn't serve us well. And the future will make us miss the now. But the present is what it means to be here. The choices and actions in the present are what will create the future that we dream of. We're here to affect the here. We're now to affect the now. And lastly, I want to close with this idea that not only is the here having to do with earth, and I wonder what that means for your life. What does it mean for the vision that's shaping you? Do the things that you do here matter? Do the things that you do here, will they last into eternity? The way that you're spending your time, the way that you're raising your children, the way that you're listening to other people, the way that you're stepping into opportunities when they come, do they have an impact that will last into eternity? And then are you here? Are you present? Are you savoring the moment? Are you intentionally aware of what's happening in front of you? That's what we want to know as a church. That's what we want to be as a church, that we know what's happening here, that we know what's going on in the city, that we know what's going on in the neighborhood, that we know what's going on in each other's lives, that we would be the first responders in each other's lives, that we would be the ones who walk with each other and hold each other's arms up and carry each other. And what decisions can you make for your life that will help you be here for other people? But beyond that, one of the greatest things that I love about the here idea is that here, for us, it also means 3810 Bancroft. And I love this concept. It's cheesy again, but I love this idea that hope has an address. Hope has an address. And I love that that means that Jesus came here to earth, that Jesus was present with people in their moment, but Jesus also had a home, and it was Nazareth. And for us, we now, for the first time in 10 years as Makers Church, we now have a home. And our home, we have an address that's going to last. And the reason I love that is because there's so much time and energy that we've spent over the last 10 years trying to figure out where we're going to go, how are we going to meet, who's going to set the stuff up, who's going to tear the stuff down. And all of that was necessary for the season, but it's all sideways energy. It's all stuff that took time and money and people and things that took us kind of out of being here sometimes. And I was thinking about this, and I know that it's not promised to any of us that we would ever own a home. It's not promised to anyone. In fact, many of you and many of us will never own a home. But for those of you that have made the shift from renting a house to owning a house, there's a massive shift that takes place. There's a permanence that brings an ease, that gives clarity to what you can see. Even if you have young kids and you're renting and you're choosing schools and you're making some decisions about what school your kids are going to go to or about how you're going to spend your time or about what you're going to do. All of that's up in the air when nothing's permanent. But when we bought our house, we knew that's the school for our kids. The school decision was going to kill the Millers. It was ridiculous. So that's another story for another day. But when we bought our home, it's answered that question for us. It solved a problem for us because there was something to the physicality, to the permanence of what it meant to move from being a renter to an owner. And the same is true for us as a church. To have a physicality, to have a location. It may not be our last location, but it is our first permanent home. It's our first permanent headquarters, our base, the place that we're going to be sent from. And here's the amazing thing about here, is that we're standing on the shoulders of 100 years of ministry. We are not just getting started. We're being entrusted to continue it on into the future, to continue on a legacy, to continue on a ministry that has lasted in the past, but will take us into the future, but will only ever happen if we choose to be here. And here's the beautiful thing about the way God works. When the world didn't go as planned and it became corrupt and disconnected from God, He simply could have scraped it and started over. But instead, He chose to renew it. And this is our plans as a church. We're going to renew this old space, and we're going to spend time talking about that later in the year. And we're going to make a home for people that have never had a home. We're going to create a space where people can come alive in Jesus. We're going to create a place where marriages take place, where we celebrate lives as people pass. We're going to create a place where marriages are restored, where people come to faith, where children are raised up knowing about Jesus. We're going to create a space where people are served from and meals are served. We're going to renew a space that has been doing that for 100 years. And that's exciting. But beyond that, my question for you is, what is your here? See, we had to choose this as a church. We had to choose to merge together with another church. We had to choose to say, this is the place that we're going to be sent from, that we're going to do ministry from. And it answered a whole bunch of other questions for us. And I wonder for you this morning, as you think about the vision for your life, what is your here? In a world of limitless possibilities, with decision fatigue, what choice can you make? What place can you choose to be here at that will answer a whole bunch of other questions for you, that will make decisions for you? Because when your mission is aligned with your vision, then your decisions can be made for you. What's your here? Is it your marriage? Do you need to choose to be here at your job? Here as a parent? Here at Maker's Church? Maybe you're here and you're church shopping, you're trying to find a place to call home. Is it here? Is here San Diego? You could live anywhere. You could do anything. You could be anybody, but what is your here? And my hope is that as you answer that question, that you will begin to see the things of God. That you begin to see through a lens of faith. Begin to see that what's possible out there will only ever happen if we choose to be here. Would you pray with me? God, we thank you that you're calling us here. God, I don't know what that here is for everyone. But God, I hope that by the power of your Holy Spirit, you're moving and you're speaking in people's lives. God, that you're answering some questions for them. That you're letting them see what's in front of them. God, I pray as they look back, they'd be grateful. As they look forward, they'd be hopeful. But as they look now, that they would be here. Whatever their here is. And God, for those in the room, God, that have responded to your presence, God, to the fact that you came here. And Lord, they've chosen to walk with you and follow with their lives. God, I just pray that right now they'd be reminded, God, that we are the church. There's no one else out there who's going to do it but us. To be your body, to be your church. And so, God, I just pray that your mission for the world would become the mission of each and every person's life in this room. Because that's the only thing that will last into eternity. And God, I pray for any person in the room that is unsure of who you are, unsure about the great mission for their life, unsure about how they should spend their life. I just pray right now, God, that you begin to warm their heart to the idea that you've come here, that you're standing at their door, that you're knocking. And God, if they would open the door of their heart, that you would come in. And so God, I just pray if you're moving that way in anyone's life this morning, God, that they would know this is a safe place to journey with you. We just pray this in your name, Jesus. Amen.
You are listening to the Makers Church podcast. For more information about our community, please visit makerschurch.org.